I realized that it was not part of my dream. I realized that it wasn't just my imagination working on me. I realized that it was very real. I had felt the knife line across my neck. I could feel its edge on the tip of my skin.
She was going on a summer vacation with her friend the next day. She narrated a bedtime story to her little sister sleeping beside her. At around 2 a.m., the strange man said, "I have a knife at your neck. Don't make a sound. Get up and come with me." She was 14 and knew nothing about the evil side of man. All she knew was her wealthy, happy family, friends, church, and the harp. The kidnapping of Elizabeth Smart was one of the most distraught kidnappings ever. What happened to Elizabeth? Why did they kidnap her? And what did they do to her? Stick till the end of the video because we will dive into the kidnapping of Elizabeth Smart. Elizabeth Smart became the focus of public attention when she was abducted from her bedroom on June 5, 2002 at 14 years of age. Little did she know that she was going to bed that night to experience one of the possible things that she had only seen in nightmares. She was born on November 3, 1987 to Edward Smart and Lois Smart in Salt Lake City, Utah. Elizabeth is the second oldest in her family. She has 4 brothers and 1 sister. The night before her kidnapping, Elizabeth got permission from her parents for a vacation with her friend and went to bed. She narrated a bedtime story to her little sister, Mary Catherine. Around 2 a.m., the abductor came inside their house by cutting the window screen, going to the girl's bedroom with a knife and threatening Elizabeth. He told her not to make a sound, and he had a knife on her throat, and if she tried to escape or make a sound, he would kill her family. Being so young and scared, Elizabeth did as she was told. Without making a noise, she was asked to take him through the back door. She didn't even know if her parents and brothers were alive. The only thing she thought at that time was that her little sister was sleeping near her, and she didn't want him to hurt her. But little did she know that Mary Catherine was pretending to be sleeping, and she saw the intruder coming and taking Elizabeth. The little girl was too scared to make a sound. Soon after Elizabeth was taken, Mary Catherine ran to her parents and told them that a man had taken Elizabeth. Thinking she had a bad dream, Ed and Lois start to console her, and Ed goes to check on Elizabeth to find out that she is not in her bed. He searches the house, from the bedroom to the office, the living room to the kitchen. Elizabeth is nowhere. They start to panic, and that is when Lois notices the slashed window screen and the unlocked back door. They quickly called the police, and then began the investigation. Meanwhile, Elizabeth is taken by her abductor, dressed in long white robes with long beards and hair. He was taking her miles and miles away through the mountains behind her house. Little Elizabeth was so scared, and at a point asked the abductor to molest and kill her if that is what he was going to do, and leave her body near her house so that her parents would know that she was kidnapped and that she didn't run away. But the kidnapper told her that he was not going to do that yet. After walking for so long, she was taken to an encampment where she met a lady dressed as a kidnapper. The encampment was so crowded that they had to crawl through it. The lady approached, hugged Elizabeth, and did some rituals. She was asked to change from her pajamas to a white robe similar to that of her kidnappers. Confused, Elizabeth thought that they may be a couple who had never had a child and had kidnapped her to be their child. But to her shock, she discovered later that the man took her and did some rituals to make Elizabeth his wife. He not only made her his wife, but also abused and molested Elizabeth regularly, sometimes more than twice a day. She was chained and held captive so that she wouldn't run away. Her parents organized a search party for Elizabeth, where thousands joined hands to find her. They searched the forest, mountains, cities, everywhere. They even searched near the valley where Elizabeth was held captive and shouted her name. Though Elizabeth could hear them, she didn't make a sound, as the abductor told her that his people were near her house, and if she tried to escape or make a sound, they would kill her family. As days passed, the police were giving less and less hope, but her family believed that she was out there, alive.
Elizabeth, if you're out there, we're doing everything we possibly can to help you. We love you. We want you to come home safely to us.
The police repeatedly questioned Mary Catherine to get some clues about the kidnapper, but all the little girl remembered was that he was about the same height as her brother Charles, had dark hair, and was around 30 to 40 years old. She also said that his voice seemed familiar, but she couldn't recognize who it was. The state was now filled with pictures of Elizabeth Smart, and people were all familiar with her face now. Later, the police were handed a list of workers that worked for the Smart family, on which they noticed a name, Richard Ritchie. He had a history of drug abuse and theft, and was jailed for violating parole. They questioned Ritchie and kept him as the number one suspect. Though Ritchie was against the allegation, the police would not let him go. He was then found dead in the office as he suffered from brain hemorrhoids. When Elizabeth's name was fading from the press, the family did everything they could to keep her case alive, including making a website about her abduction and her videos. The kidnappers and Elizabeth used to wander around the city wearing robes, and the faces of the ladies and Elizabeth were covered in a veil, revealing their eyes alone. People would notice them, and when asked, the abductor replies by saying they are messengers of God. Elizabeth was told not to speak to anyone. As days passed, Elizabeth's identity changed to her new name, Esther. In September 2002, the kidnappers moved to San Diego with Elizabeth, where they held her in an encampment in San Diego County. They relocated several times, often moving in the middle of the night. One day, the man was arrested for breaking into a church and spent several days in jail. One fine day in October 2002, Mary Catherine suddenly realized that the abductor sounded like a man who worked for the Smart family. They saw him only twice, once with their mother in the street and once when he came to their home to fix the roof. The girl said the name was Emmanuel. They informed the police about this, and for more than 3 weeks, they could not catch the suspect. So the family made a sketch of Emmanuel and published it through the press. The drawing was recognized by relatives of Emmanuel, and they contacted Ed, saying that his real name was not Emmanuel, but Brian David Mitchell. The anonymous caller also mentioned that if Brian has Elizabeth, she is still alive. This made the family hold tight onto their ray of hope. The abductors were Brian David Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Bursey. From his childhood, Mitchell had a very unusual state of mind. He was taught about coitus by showing explicit photos from a medical journal, and to be independent, his father would drop Mitchell off in unfamiliar places to find his way back home. At 16, he exposed himself to a child and was sent to juvenile hall. He had 2 marriages, and both ended in divorce. He had a terrible history of drugs and alcohol. His ex-wives also claimed that he was abusive and even sexually abused their children for years. On the day Mitchell divorced his second wife, he married Wanda, a 34-year-old divorcee with 6 children. Wanda also had a troubled relationship with her children, and they would say that she was a terrible woman. Together, Mitchell and Wanda were actively involved in all the crimes. With the same psychic mentality, both Mitchell and Wanda believed that Mitchell was a prophet of God with a prophetic vision, and Wanda served him as an enslaved person. Mitchell presented himself in an image similar to that of Jesus, with a long beard and hair, dressed in robes and tunics. When they held Elizabeth captive, Wanda used to tell Elizabeth that she was lucky that he chose her to be his wife. Mitchell claimed to be an angel, and that he was a Davidic king. He mentioned that Smart was the first of many virgin brides he would kidnap, and they would accompany him as he battled with the Antichrist. The psychic mentality and sexual desire made him sexually abuse Smart several times, and they even fed her alcohol and garbage so she would be drained of energy. Smart threw up at times, and later she woke up to find herself drenched in her own vomit. Wanda was no less evil. She forced Elizabeth to eat the garbage and assist Michael in all his works and commands. They made numerous public appearances while their search for Elizabeth was still active, but many failed to identify her due to the robes and veil. One fine day, after Mitchell's sketch was revealed to the public, 2 couples spotted Mitchell with a woman and a girl in Sandy, Utah. The police soon arrived at the spot and identified Mitchell and Wanda, and the girl was disguised in a gray wig, veil, and sunglasses. When asked about her identity, she refused to say her real name and instead said what the kidnappers asked her to say. After refusing several times, she finally said that she was Elizabeth Smart. She was then rescued, and the kidnappers were arrested. Elizabeth was reunited with her family after 9 long months. The abductors who were arrested were proven guilty. Wanda was sentenced to 15 years in state and federal prison. But as for Mitchell, it took almost 8 years for him to come to court due to his mental evaluations. He was found mentally unstable during the kidnapping and was unfit to stand trial. However, the court rejected his insanity defense on December 11, 2010, and found him guilty of kidnapping and transporting a minor across the states and molesting her. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Wanda, however, was released in September 2018, even after Smart's protest against it. Elizabeth Ann Smart is now married and living with her beautiful 3 children and her husband. She says the 9 months were the darkest days of her life, but due to the immense support of her family, she overcame the mental trauma and led a happy life. She is now a motivational speaker and activist. She even goes to advocate for missing people and even shares her story with the world through her numerous nonfiction books and films.
My mom said to me, "Elizabeth, what this man has done to you is terrible. He has stolen 9 months of your life that you will never get back. The best punishment you could ever give him is to be happy."
With this, we have come to the end of the video. Let us know your thoughts on this case by dropping a comment below. Also, don't forget to like and share this video. See you next time.